Okay, so let's get started. First step is balancing and bonding. Okay, so we got our foil and we've cut it, and what I want you to do is fold it in half. You see mine's more of a rectangular shape. Just fold it in half long ways, and then smooth it out, make a nice crease, and open it back up just like you would a book to read. Okay? Now, take note of the texture and the feel. And what I want you to do next is just examine it very closely and ensure that you've touched every single piece of that foil. Just rub your fingers up and down it, smooth it out, flick it, pluck it, whatever you got to do, just kind of get familiar with it. Then put it on the tip of your finger and balance it. And take note of the weight and the proportion and the size and every little cranny, crook and cranny and wrinkle. Just make sure you've seen and touched every single part of that. Then, as you see what I'm doing now, just kind of toss it back and forth and get used to how it looks in motion. Give her a whiff. Maybe hold it next to your ear and pluck it. Get used to that sound. You'll notice that bigger pieces of foil have a different sound, and small pieces have a higher pitched sound. Information about that piece of foil in our head as possible. Okay, so now we're going to set and test the threshold. So I want you to open the foil up just as far as you possibly can, and yet still be able to stand it up on end. And then when you do that, I want you to test it. If you're able to touch this foil without knocking it over, you need to widen it a little more. We want this as easy as possible, guys. I mean, if you blink too hard, we want that thing to fall over. Okay, we're just learning, so we want to make this as easy as possible. Okay, so get her set up. In your mind, acquire empathy. In other words, refer back to all that information you just observed about the foil as easy as possible. Okay, so get her set up. In your mind, acquire empathy. In other words, refer back to all that information you just observed about the foil. And then picture that you want the foil to fall over. And then take that intention and place it in your hands, and then project the intention of falling with your hand, just like you saw there. Now I want you to stick with pushing, but I've done one pull so people can see that it's not just air that's knocking these things over. But I want your intention to stay focused on push as we get learning, because pushing always seems to be easier to start out with. Okay, so we set it up. We acquire empathy. In other words, we imagine how it would feel to be that piece of foil. Then we imagine how it would look for that foil to fall over. Then we take that imagery and place the energy in our hand along with the imagery, and then we project that falling over imagery to the foil through the use of hands. Okay? So practice that a few times. And it doesn't matter if you're close enough to where it becomes air that's moving it. Whatever. We're training. We're getting our brain used to seeing it. And once you get pretty good at that, we'll stop the hand motion, and we'll just use the empathy and then the intentions, projecting our intentions. So practice. And you may notice long before it starts falling over, you may notice the foil will begin to twitch a little, or it may like a shivering motion or something when you actually fully acquire empathy. And concentrate on the empathy, guys, more so than the action of it falling over. Just imagine and remember everything about that foil, how it felt, how it smelled, how it looks, and just concentrate on the empathy. When you become that foil, when you fully understand what that foil looks and feels like, it'll start to move, and it becomes easy after that. Okay, so there's some foil practice for you. And then another great one, and I found this to be very easy, was the feather. Everyone can find a feather, surely. If you live in the city, maybe you go to a park and walk through the park and you'll find one even. But start small, and then get a rock. It doesn't have to be a rock. You can use whatever you want to balance it on, but something that has sort of a flat edge on the very top, a ridge, so to speak. And then we're going to do the same thing. We acquire empathy with the feather. I like to hold it near my navel, and then I like to look it over, and I always put it on my finger and balance it, find the balance point, take note of the weight and the proportion, and make sure you've seen and touched when you have to find the balance point of something. So focus on how that feels to balance. And then after you get it set up, calm your mind, clear your mind, and just concentrate on what it felt like when you were balancing that feather. And like I said, as always, acquire empathy with a feather, and just think, but you don't have to think about teetering it up and down. Okay, after the balancing, what we're going to do is stand the feather up on end. And again, this is balancing, of course, but on a different position. We're standing up vertically. So take note of how it feels in the upright position, how it feels for the feather to move left and right. And we're going to focus on that feeling of moving that feather left and right. Okay, and as you see me turning my head, what I'm doing is getting a better view of the feather. I can't see much of the feather from the edge view, and you kind of have to have a good lock on it visually to do this. Keep it all evenly focused. There's actually a photo that you can use for a visual exercise or a training tool on my website. So if you please check that out and practice doing that, it really does help. Your questions are welcome here, or you can email me as well. And also, I'd like to ask, if you have some success, please post it. Your success is our success, and when people read that people are learning to do this, it's an inspiration and a confidence booster for others that are trying to learn. So share your questions, your comments, and your success here on this thread. And as I mentioned, this is part 1, so obviously there's going to be at least a part 2 and probably several more after that. So I'm just kind of putting this out as a feeler to see if this makes sense to people or if it's any help to someone. And I'm in the learning process myself, guys, so we can all bounce things off of each other and learn from one another. And I wish you the best of luck. I mean, my true intentions are only for you to learn telekinesis. My website is entirely free. It has no advertisements, and I'm not selling anything. So if you have time, please check out the website. Pick up the tools that you need to do this. And if you put in the time, I assure you, you can do telekinesis, because everyone can do telekinesis.